investments, those are opportunities, those are things that Texas is benefiting from directly as it transitions from what it has traditionally been to what it can be in the future. That's a tremendous opportunity for places like Texas, and people wouldn't necessarily think, well, Texas, they're going to lead the change here, but they have opportunities to be able to do that.
You know, I'm really proud of my state for that, because it really has come somewhat as a surprise in how we approach other changes that come about. But Mr. T. Boone Pickens, who has made billions of dollars with oil and gas, is honest enough to step out and say to the people, we cannot continue to do this. There are many reasons why we can't. First of all, the supply is not going to last. But secondly, it's security, it's homeland security, that we develop our own source of energy, because our population still are not getting smaller. Our water is not plentiful anymore, and many of our bodies of water are polluted. So we have a number of problems that we need to solve along with addressing the climate change. You probably have a better handle on how it's affecting certain populations for change than what I do. Have you seen very much reaction to it?
Well, you know, you mentioned water, and Texas in particular is, you know, I mean, there are some water wars going on now because we are, which almost unthinkable, but we're literally running out of water because of the drought conditions and because of population. You put those two things together, less water, more people, that's a bad outcome generally you're going to get, and we're seeing that, and climate change is absolutely making that worse, and we're going to see that get a lot worse, particularly in the West and the Southwest. Interestingly enough, from a national perspective, we're beginning to see those same kind of water struggles in the East and the Southeast now, which I don't think people ever contemplated actually having to deal with. There was a huge fight last year in Georgia over over who's going to get the water.
We had to do a little refereeing on that.
That's right. So, so I think, you know, it's those kind of things are coming home. There's been a group of folks, I think, for a while have been saying, well, yeah, this might be a problem for, you know, people in coastal areas of Africa or Bangladesh, but it's not really going to affect us. Well, that's just simply not true.
It is already affecting, and it will affect our food supply.
Absolutely.
Because we have been a country, a state that has had a lot of farming, and we've had access to fresh vegetables, but without water and all heat, it's going to be very difficult to maintain a food supply.
We're seeing the growing zones, the areas where crops can be maintained, certain crops can be maintained, basically shifting northward. And the other way to think about that is basically over the next 50 to 100 years, we can take Texas up and move it about 100 to 150 miles south. I mean, that's sort of the changes. So if you want to look at, say, Guadalajara or some of the areas in Mexico, and that's the sort of agriculture zone places are going to be in, sort of temperature zone that people are going to be in. Now, I know it's been hot in Texas, so I'm not.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's been unseasonably hot.
Good.
Hotter than usual, but it won't get better soon.
That's right.
It's going to probably get a little bit worse. We just passed, as you mentioned earlier, this landmark piece of legislation that I think that some will have difficulty accepting, but it's not a matter of choice anymore. It's a necessity that we move in certain directions. Have you heard any kind of reaction from our basic citizenry of that change about to come?
A lot of nervousness out there, a lot of fear, and in some cases, in some parts of the country, we've seen some real anger. Some of the folks who are associated with the Tea Party organizations and things like that, who are unfortunately either badly misinformed or not concerned with the facts. I think it's different in different cases, but making some really pretty outlandish claims about various things. One of the things, of course, they like to say is the utility bills for folks are going to go through the roof, and of course, all of the studies that have looked at this that have any credibility, whether it be the Congressional Budget Office or the General Accounting Office, or all of those have said, in fact, even without people making any improvements in efficiency on their own, these things are going to be absolutely manageable from a cost perspective. But that doesn't stop people from claiming all kinds of things. And so there's a lot of that going on out there. But I think the other point that people have begun to make that they didn't make quite so much, I think, during the House debate was a point you started to make earlier. We are so dependent on oil in particular, which is part of the problem that we have here, and that it affects our foreign policy. It means that we send people overseas to die to defend areas that we shouldn't have to do. We are hostage to the price for gasoline by people who, frankly, who control the supply, who don't think very highly of us. And you put all those things together, and it just cries out for policy solutions that move us away. And that's exactly what this bill starts to do, is to say we don't want to be held hostage by petro-dictators anymore. We want to move away from that. And I think that's a fair argument to make in support of the bill. I think it also is important to raise it in the context of people who want to claim to be patriots and other things. Well, to me, patriotism isn't leaving us dependent on unstable sources of energy when we can develop those things at home and develop the jobs that stay at home at the same time. That's just, you need to do it smart, but boy, we ought to do it. And just sitting around waiting for something else to happen is not a good plan.
It's just getting worse. You know, some years ago I read a little book, and I can't remember now who wrote it, called Who Moved My Cheese? And the theme of the book all the way through is that you've got to be willing to accept change. If you can't accept the change, then you lose. And the people who can adapt to change are the persons that really gain through change. So I'm hoping that our public sees this as something for them, for all of us, because we really have to protect what we have and get rid of a little bit what we have as well. But this is a matter of life and death, frankly. And, you know, when you've got just hot weather and not a good supply of water, diseases also become more prevalent, and communicable diseases pass a little bit more quickly among people.
That's true.
So it's not just a matter of the liberals trying to make things happen.
Right.
It is a necessity that we do something about it.
It is one of those rare policy areas where we can do this one thing and affect so many other areas positively. And most time, I mean, you vote on things all the time. Most times you're focusing on this or on this or on this, and this is one of those comprehensive kind of things that can really make a positive difference in so many different ways. We have to have the wherewithal to really work through it, to stick with it, to actually get this done, and that's always hard. It's always hardest to get that change done at the very end when it looks like it might be real, because the defenders of the status quo, the people who kind of like things the way they are, fight the hardest when it gets closest to that stage, and that's where we are right now. That's why I think some of those voices are pretty loud out there.
Yes.
And I think this is so much the right thing for America to do, and so much the right thing for us to do as a people that I think will get it done.
Well, thank you. And thank you very much for taking time to come. We're out of time, but remember, let's protect our environment.
This has been another edition of Report from Washington featuring Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. You can reach Congresswoman Johnson at 202-225-8885 or 214-922-8885. You can also contact her through her website at http://www.house.gov/ebjohnson.